first and foremost rule that I want to say about journalism is there is no such rule. You got to devise your own rules, as you got to play the game the way you want it, right? However, having said that, while playing these games, you need to stick around with some of the basic tenets. Like, you got to be honest, you got to be accurate, because there is no substitute for that. There is no substitute for hard work either, right? So, if to start, let me just talk about the journey that I've had, and as to why I switched from print to online, and what do I like about print, and what do I not like about print, and what do I like about online media, and what I don't like about online media. So, like Ashwini said, I started with Indian Express as a sub editor. I used to, uh, just go, I mean, log into work in the afternoon, and then make pages. So I used to do nation pages. I used to create the pages for the Economist. I used to design and choose the stories on international page as well. So thereafter, I'm a native of Bombay, or Mumbai as people call it, native of Bombay. So I decided to move back to Bombay because it's hometown, and more of a comfort, and saving some costs in terms of living expenses and stuff. So I decided to move back to Bombay, and I got an opportunity with Economic Times. So the call with Economic Times actually went like, hello, are you Chaitanya? I said, I'm Chaitanya. Yes. And would you be interested? There's an opening we have on at Economic Times on the desk. Would you like to apply for it? Would you be interested in it? So I said, I'd like to move back to Bombay first. That's one of my priorities. And B, I don't know anything about business journalism at all. I was very frank and I was very honest. So they said, no, that's not what we are looking for. We are looking for somebody who has good editorial skills, and there's a test paper that you'll have to take, you'll have to take that test, and then we can always judge your acumen and stuff. And the thought about, and the talk about you not knowing journalism is not an impediment. We are here to support it. We are here to take you through it should you learn. So then I went there, appeared for the test, took the interview, gave the interview as well, met a couple of people, senior people there. They pretty much liked it, and they said, okay, you can come back, you can move to Bombay. We have a position for you in Bombay. So I joined there as a copy editor, spent 2.5 years there. There I used to take care of a couple of pages on a daily basis. One is called as was called as Business of Brands, which is basically a page which would talk about what's happening in business, what's happening in at big corporates, like what's happening in FMCG industry, what is happening in advertising industry. Let's say, for example, Vivo backs the rights for IPL. Okay, so there'll be a story about Vivo bagging the IPL rights. Something with regards to, let's say, Hindustan Unilever, HUL, let's say Dettol. Dettol has decided, I think it's running a campaign of sorts, wherein it's replacing its traditional, that logo, plus wala. So that sort of a story would usually come up in there. Plus smartphones. What is Samsung doing in terms of R&D? What are the Infosys and the Wipros of the world doing? So that would essentially summarize what the Business of Brands page is. Apart from that, there would be the corporate stories, the pages dedicated to corporate, which is called as companies. So that also I used to make. Say, there would be a level of editors who would tell you that these are the stories that go onto your page. These are the stories that go on someone else's page, and then they'll tell you that this is your lead one, this is your lead two, and then you then get to decide basis your acumen and your suggestions. You can always tell people that okay, this story needs a will look good if you have an infographic in it, a box. So you got to cull out information from the story that are stories that are provided to you. So thereafter, as and when in the 2.5 years, I moved on from making business brands and corporate pages to also covering the markets pages. I've been pure play desk editor as such. Okay, so that is how. So the more you're willing to learn, the more chances you get to try out different things, right? So I did good. I think I did good in business of brands and corporate pages. That is why they took me to the next level, saying that okay, markets is basically the core and the heart of a financial newspaper. So you also need to know about markets. So they taught me about markets, how what happens, what happens with share prices, how do they go up, how do they go down, what is BSE, what is NSE, what does SEBI do, and all those things. How do share prices go up? And so that is what happened. And then I was like, 2.5 years, 2.5 years, 5 years, I was looking for a change, because I think that, if you're in a firm, you should always look to innovate and come out with different things. So as part of ET Desk, I was also a part of a team which overhauled the page making software solution that the company was using. So we moved from let's call it let's call the software, I think it was CCI 2.0 to CCI 3.0, which meant that we would test out different use case scenarios as to how a story is generated in a CMS. CMS means what do you call it? CMS is basically a repository wherein all your stories come in. Your pages, news pages are linked onto that, and content
Content
management.
management
Yeah,
system. Yeah.
Exactly. Thanks, Vinod. Content management software. So that is a repository wherein all your stories come in, be it from your bureau, be it from your wire services that you subscribe to. The photographs come in there. Infographics too can be integrated, and your pages can be integrated with those stories. So that was also a year-long exercise. So we had different workshops at different times of the year, wherein we moved from Bombay to Delhi to Bangalore, and a couple of other places. And that was a cohesive exercise wherein 4 people, 5 people from Delhi desk, 5 from Bangalore desk and Bombay desk would complete, and would come in and get together for this. So that was also another interesting experience. People think that let's say if I'm a reporter, I would think that the moment I file a story with 2 quotes, the a for quote and an anti quote, my story is balanced and I'm done with my work. No, the work doesn't stop there. The work actually begins there, right? You also need to know how things work after you submit your story. You also need to know how things work after you've created your page, or a page that is for print. And you also need to know what happens after you publish a story online. What are the loops that stories go through after that? So thereafter, 2.5 years later, I moved from Economic Times to Money Control. This was more of an experiment because I wanted to know what the online space is all about. So again, I applied to Money Control, which is part of the News 18 Network 18 group. So I applied for Money Control, and then got through. Initial 6 months, I didn't like the space at all, because the primary reason that I wanted to move out of the print side was I did not want to be working, in the evening the whole, for a good part of my life. I like, every evening, 4 o'clock to 12 o'clock, you're sitting and making pages. So I wanted a lifestyle change. And so then I moved to Money Control, which gave me flexible shift timings. Like there was a morning shift, afternoon shift. So I was, so I had a rotating shift pattern there. So that kind of suited me. I thought, okay, this is something that I could, actually look forward to. And so I moved to from Money Control. There, when I joined, I was told that, there was a revamp that was going in. Money Control was strictly speaking a financial news website. So if you log on to Money Control, if you had logged on and back then, Money Control would show just market stories. This stock price is going up. This stock has gotten beaten down. This company got so and so million or billion worth of dollars and stuff. So from that, we decided that the agenda was to bolster that news coverage. So we introduced in the 2.5, 3 years I was there. In the three years that I was there, the team as a team we incorporated Apart from financial news, we incorporated companies, we incorporated sports, we incorporated politics and trending news. So something like, Anand Mahindra asking, what should you name Bangalore as? Putting out a contest saying that, the best name will win some award. Will, wouldn't have made it to Money Control when I had joined back then. But now, over a period of times, we changed that, and Money Control now actually looks to do those trending stories as well. So overall, the news coverage and the breadth and the scope of the news coverage was expanded back then. Then I was like, okay, almost, let me look for a new place, and I wanted a change of city, and so I applied to Deccan Herald, and I came here. Deccan Herald, again, it's an online space, and previously. Again, the similar sort of an approach is what we're also doing here. Doing here, so increasing the breadth and scope. So a Deccan Herald online back then would publish stories earlier. Okay, earlier it would publish stories which would go in the print mainly, but now the coverage scope has increased to include live blogs of all the events, global and national, and local as well. Okay, sports, yeah. So you'll see, and then recently we brought out a Deccan Herald app as well. Okay, we are looking to. There's a lot of fair bit of cohesiveness and integration between the print side and the online side of Deccan Herald. So you'll see that something like we're introducing the print reader to come and listen to our podcasts, for example. We're telling every Sunday for Monday, you'll Saturday for Sunday or Sunday for Monday, you'll see QR codes which asks people to watch videos online as well. So it's on the front page. Every Sunday for Monday, you'll have on the front page, there'll be a panel which calls out the podcast that we'll be doing in the days to come. So that pretty much is uh, what my journey has been so far. And in all these years, what I've learned is essentially that essentially what I've learned is that the basics of journalism don't change, irrespective of the medium that you're in, be it audio, that is podcast, be it video, which is videos, be it print, or be it online. Your basic tenets, basic principles of your journalism don't change. So you have to put in your 100% effort day in and day out, be it while editing a copy or while writing a copy, because you are doing a service to the reader, right? So with that, I just have a small presentation which I want to take you guys through. I think this is pretty much sums up what is expected, or what happens in newsrooms. Fair enough. So I'll just let me just know if you guys can see it. Just a minute. I'll just switch on sharing. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Fantastic, fantastic. So just let me present it. I think I'm having some issue. Yeah, here we are. So the changing newsroom. Let's talk about something called as newsroom essentials. I mean, I just gave a broad name to it, called as newsroom essentials. It's nothing but how a newsroom functions, and it pretty much remains the same across different media organizations and the media types, be it print, be it online. A typical day of an editor. So what I've observed in the places that I work with and currently is that in the morning, usually most news organizations have two calls wherein they discuss, two meetings rather. Right now it's calls because because pandemic and lockdown. So there are two meetings wherein people come in and brainstorm over the agenda for the day. They brainstorm over the stories of the day. Each bureau chief will come in and say that, okay, my team is going to do so and so story. These are the biggest events of the day. Like, for example, let's envisage a situation like the day has just begun, 9 o'clock, first call. Okay, first morning call. So the city bureau desk chief will say that, oh, there is a press conference by the BBMP commissioner. He's likely to spell out the unlock rules, for example. Okay, so then the editor will say that, okay, yeah, that's a good story. That is something that we should track because it is of importance both for Bangalore and for Karnataka. Okay, then the sports editor will come and say that, oh, there is there's a WTC final that's going to happen sometime later this month, and we're looking to score an interview opportunity with Virat Kohli. So the editor will be like, yes, oh, that's also a good story. So there is an exchange of ideas that go on. Then the opinion editor will say that, okay, I have XYZ story opinion lined up. This will be this will be the theme of my opinion piece. Do you think we should do this? We should attempt this. So the editor will be like, okay. So basically each member of the meeting has their own views, and they come together and decide that, okay, this is my news. This is what essentially at 9 o'clock how my day flow will be. Okay, so these are called let's call them set pieces. Like, these are the things that will happen on a day-to-day basis. And as and when the day progresses, these news lists get updated. Like, for example, in the morning, this morning, the news meeting would have had, people would have discussed the new study which says that Covishield produces more antibodies than Covaxin. So people would want to know comments on it. So the storylines will flow from that story peg. But then now, suddenly, thereafter, after the meeting around 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, Arvind Kejriwal said that, I'm going to hold a press conference shortly, maybe sometime in the afternoon, 3 or 4 p.m. if I'm not wrong. So then this peg also gets added to the news list. There'll be somebody assigned to the story to track the story. Then just before our the meeting, this call started, Narendra Modi, we got a notification saying that Narendra Modi will speak, the Prime Minister will address the nation at 5 p.m. So that gets added. So that gets added to the respective bureaus, and and then there are reporters assigned. The desk on its own will then start also planning stuff. So reporter is going to, in an online setup, for example, the reporter will say, I'll file a trunk copy, which will say everything about what he said. The big points, 5 big points, he'll say, and I'll take comments from, experts, and, I'll have vox pops, etc., and I'll file a story. Meanwhile, the online guy will say that, okay, 5 o'clock, the Prime Minister is going to speak, and okay, while the Prime Minister is speaking, I will have a live blog. Okay, I will log almost every statement that the Prime Minister is saying, and also have the video of the Prime Minister in that live blog, right? So by the time, Prime Minister ends his speech, the live blog will have a multiple post, and similarly, the desk head on the online side will say that, let's release 10 things to know, sort of a listicle. What are the biggest things? And so while the reporter is actually filing the copy, you have something for the readers to go to, right? So that is how the day progresses. And in the evening, 6 o'clock, usually around 5 to 6 p.m., almost all newsrooms meet, 5 p.m., 7 p.m. corridor, and then decide that what are the stories that will actually go into the print page, news page. Okay, so they'll decide that, okay, these 5 stories will be marked for page 1. This will be the lead on page 2. This will be the lead on page 3, and so on. So that is when the print desk comes in, and kickstarts their work, a daily work. The desk editors will start and think about headlines. They'll start editing the copies. they'll start looking for photographs within the bureau, from the bureau photographers, and wire services as well, right? So, and then at the end of the day, after the meeting, ends, this news flow starts. People start creating pages, and then by 10 p.m., 11 p.m., the pages are released. Before the pages are released, each page is goes through. Usually, it goes through two pairs of eyes, apart from the person who is creating that page, who is making that page, who is subbing, the copies on the page. So and each page has a different, caters to a different set of audience. Each story will always resonate with different set of people. So someone may like a listicle on what are the restrictions in a bullet point format. Someone will like in a paragraph format. So depending on the choice of the reader, you have to spin those stories accordingly. So in online space, usually, when things are happening live, people would immediately want, point-wise bullets. Okay, do I need to do this? Yes or no? Let's say, for example, lockdown, unlock guidelines. Do I need, for interstate travel from Karnataka to, let's say, Maharashtra, do I need an RT-PCR certificate, negative certificate? I wouldn't want to, as a reader, I wouldn't want to, look at, go through 5 or 6 paragraphs and come to know that, RT-PCR is required. If it's in a bullet format or, an interactive graphic format, I'll be pretty much happy, because that saves my time. I'm taking my time out during my work day to read something up. So you better give it to me quickly, as soon as possible. So that immediacy is always there, when compared to print and with vis-a-vis online. So so that is pretty much the day of the editor and everyone, a newsroom as such. Thereafter, transition from print to online news is, again, it was a personal choice. There is nothing good or bad about each of the mediums. Print usually suits people who would usually want a more structure, who usually want a more structured day to their lives. Like, in the morning they want to read up something, they want to pursue a hobby or something like that, and in the evening, this for deskers. And in the evening, come to office and work through the night, through the night until 1 a.m. or 2 p.m., depending on the organization that you're working with. Um, uh, Again, having said that, nothing stops you. Most organizations will always encourage you to contribute stories for online medium as well. There is something called as online first, strategy that most newsrooms, uh, incorporate. So uh, so it's like, like the best case example just now that I gave right now is the Modi example, Prime Minister Modi's example. He's speaking, and so the reporter will also help you. Besides filing a copy for the print medium, will can send you a copy, send the online desk a copy on stating in 2-3 paragraphs what are the big points that the Prime Minister mentioned. So that is called as an online first approach. So you put out the story, and then 10 or 20 minutes later, you can update the story. And in print, it usually is, you'll get a trunk copy, which is, far more, detailed, because of the time span that you have. So Modi speech copy in an online environment can look completely different at 2 p.m., at 3 p.m., at 4 p.m., and at 7 p.m., and at 10 p.m. So there can be multiple iterations of the same copy. Right. So at 2 p.m., let's say it will be, it can be a one sentence copy saying that Prime Minister Modi said we need to be careful. States are unlocking, but as citizens of the country, we need to exercise caution. Full stop. That will be the first draft. Thereafter, at 3 p.m., it'll flesh out some more details onto what he said. So that is about the treatment of the stories in both the mediums. Skill sets required. I think it was skill sets, right? Yeah. Skills required is basically common sense, honesty, and accuracy. You know, you should not never, it's like this is the favorite example that I've heard. Okay, I'm sure you guys must have also heard it. Can somebody tell me, is it raining right now? I see Arjun nodding. Arjun said no, I'm not. It's not raining. What did Arjun do?
No, sir, it's not raining.
Yeah, what did you do? How did you come to know that?
Because there's no rain outside and it's bright and sunny.
Exactly, exactly. So that is common sense. Arjun looked outside. He saw I think he didn't look outside, but yeah, the ambience in his room, it's brightly lit, and it's now natural sunlight and all. He made that conclusion, and it was a solid conclusion basis facts, right? So this is what most people don't do as editors, as the editors on the desk, and as reporters as well. So what usually people do is pick up the call in the pick up the phone in the morning, and reporters would call up people, and say that would call up their sources, batao bhai kya chal raha hai, and all. The source will say something, and in the rush to get that story published or be the first to come out with that story, finer details and logic at times goes for a toss. So that is why it is very imperative, it's extremely important to have your logic in place. You should never chase stories. Yes, definitely you should chase stories, but while doing that you should never forget common sense. Okay, for example, let's say if I'm to say that it could, I mean, I'm not able to conjure up an example right now, but as long as you're following common sense, like checking out whether it is raining or not, it's good. Especially let's say, for example, this common sense is the best thing to look for. Common sense is just not logic, it is also common sense to call up people and verify it. This will come in handy when you go on to this fact finding mission, or called as fake news bunking. So that is extremely important. Then there are few things that are different in terms of print and online medium. Is print will have tighter headlines. Print may have tighter headlines. There will always be let's say PM Modi to announce let's say yeah, so PM Modi to address the nation at 5 p.m. will be typically a print headline. Okay, whereas the headline online will be something like Prime Minister Narendra Modi to, as lockdown, as states decide to unlock, Prime Minister Modi to address the nation at 5 p.m. So it's a long headline. Online is usually not capped by any character limits, whereas in print, each word, each letter, counts. In print, you may not use words like what is that? What is that? This one recently Shashi Tharoor used, floxinocini hilipilification, right? So floxinocini hilipilification is not used in print, whereas in online it will, because it becomes a keyword. Right. In print, you will say that in print, something like the headline may read Shashi Tharoor's vocab check from Shashi Tharoor, or Shashi Tharoor uses another word this time, a new word, grammar lessons from Shashi Tharoor. That's sort of a single column or a single column 3-deck headline and a brief of what he said. Right. So that is and print will always, because it's the real estate is less on print, in print pages. You'll have to, the writing also changes. You'll have to come to the point immediately. If it's a news report, again, if it's a hard news story, you'll have to come to the point immediately. Because it gives your readers immediately you're letting your readers know that what is happening. You told your readers what is happening. India will play against New Zealand on June 23, for example, wherein both the teams will compete for the World Test Championship. That is, as precise as the lead of a print copy may goes on. Whereas in online you want to make your story discoverable. So you'll infuse something called as keywords. Keywords are nothing but the words that you type in to come to a result, a search result. Let's say, just a minute. Sorry, I got a call. So, so keywords are nothing but sets of words or phrases which make your story discoverable for the readers. Okay, so so there are some technical, not technical actually, it's just an extension of what your job as an editor on the desk is. So in print you give headlines, you give straps, and then you start line editing. In online you do these three things, and in addition to that you have another task to ensure that your copy is searchable. It becomes easier for a crawler. A crawler is nothing but something like a spider that comes onto your it basically it scans your website all throughout the day, and prompts results to different people. So for example, if we are to search for Prime Minister Narendra Modi now, Arjun may get one result from, let's say, Mint, Live Mint. Ashutosh may get a result from something like from The Hindu. Vaidehi may get a search result from the Hindustan Times, and Pratik may get something from, let's say, Indian Express or Deccan Herald, and so on. So these things are decided by the keywords that you usually use with your copies. Then also what happens is print in online space, you need to look at making your graphics interactive. You need to engage your readers. So you'll have interactive graphics, you'll have immersives. These are different ways of storytelling. So you'll have a text component to the story, a video component to the story, a podcast, and probably an interactive map. Let's say coronavirus cases, right? So you have that, and yeah. So these skill sets you acquire over a period of time. It may be overwhelming when you join any organization that you don't know so many things. There is a time. Trust me, if your work ethic is good, and if you're like hardworking, these things you learn these things in no time, right? So that is the first part of the thing. Now let me just look up, get back to the presentation. I'm just sharing screen. I'm going to just sift through the presentation right now, and then we'll take the questions probably towards the end of it. Okay. I should be done in another 15 minutes. Yes, Ashwini. Yes.
Chaitanya, I was saying that in another 10-15 minutes, if you wind up your presentation, last 15 minutes, we can
Sure.
Open the stage for questions.
Sure. I'll just do that. I'll just quickly take can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is done. What next for print is nothing but people. There's this there's this attitude, and there's this word out there saying that print is declining, print will die, and there are these harbingers of bad news for print industry. And trust me, this is not. I mean, trust me in the sense. I mean, I'm saying, as far as I am concerned, I don't see print media as an industry dying. When television came in, people wrote obituaries about newspapers. I don't think so it's happening, because at the end of the day, it is a habit. It just takes 14 days to form a new habit, or a habit. Let's say if you're a smoker, it just takes you 14 days to quit smoking. If you're not smoker, and if you smoke, then it takes you 14 days to get form smoking as a habit, right? So look at the past 1 year at least, since the time we had lockdown, March 23, right? March 23, for a couple of months, newspapers were not even distributed to your homes. But did that make people switch to online? No, right? People still subscribe to newspapers. People still subscribe to magazines, whether it is a weekly magazine, whether it is a daily magazine, whether it is whether it's a daily newspaper, whether it's a fortnightly magazine, or a monthly. People still are in the habit of reading, right? And even with regards to sources, be it in the corporate industry like India Inc., or be it in political corridors, people also would want to be, want their names to be printed. And it's because print has its own value, and it's something that nobody would want to undermine. So you'll always see that people would go people would like exclusives. For example, exclusive interviews usually are taken in conjunction with video industry, the television news channels. There are also exclusive interviews meant for print, and there's a separate exclusives for online as well. This is how people bifurcate their interviews and bifurcate their news dissemination. So somebody may go to Economic Times for an exclusive, a corporate may go to Economic Times for an exclusive interview in terms of print. For online, it may reach out to Money Control, or Live Mint, or and for television, it may go to CNBC TV 18, right, or an ET Now. So each medium has its own pros and cons, and print doesn't look to be dying anytime soon. So all these words that people say, bad news that print is dying, it's not happening. Sure, there are there have been people who have been asked to leave and all, but those are part and parcel of industries and the times that we are in. Right. Again, like I told you guys earlier, print or online, the basics of journalism remain the same. Good headlines, good copies, and good headlines, good copies, and good infographics will always lift the page and lift storytelling. These three things will remain constant throughout any medium of dissemination of news, any medium of journalism. What happens in print is it is always good to start work, or at least look to work in a print organization, is because you'll understand the finer nuances. Like when you know that you have 8 characters to give a headline, 8 words to fill in your headline, to write a headline, your thinking changes. Whereas in online, you don't actually immediately, you don't need to think about headline, because there is technically no dearth of headline space. You can have 3-deck headlines, you can have 4-deck headlines, running into 15 words, 16 words, as good as a sentence, right? Some organizations do have long sentences as headlines, but that is not the ideal way to go about it. You should try to say things in as concise, and use verb forms, strong verbs, to convey the point. So these basic things don't change across any medium of journalism. So next one is, let me just quickly sift through. One thing that everyone should actually look at is fake news. So in the past, and to an extent now as well, what happens is, let's say so you come across a bit of news which one of your sources, or especially let's say think of social media. Let's say on social media, somebody puts out a message saying that cow dung or cow urine can help cure corona, right? There are many people who would retweet this, who would forward this on WhatsApp, who would put up on Facebook, Twitter, Clubhouse, and whatever, all these sorts of Telegram and other things. So and all these such messages usually don't have a scientific basis, right? So what happens is, people just keep on forwarding those news items which they think are news and are true. But as journalists in a print organization or any form, in the recent past, till recently rather. People would say that, okay, I know that this is fake, so I need not carry it in my newspaper or my online website, or I don't need to have a video about it. Okay, but what happens when you don't publish that information, when you don't call out that information in your news as a journalist, is there are many people who are gullible to it. Till date, I get my father, who sends me messages asking that, okay, I got this forward, is this true or fake? Is it, should I actually tell my people, can I just forward this to people? Why is he doing that? Because he recently moved to WhatsApp, and he still has this his circle of friends and stuff. You are used to sending messages to each other, forwarding such messages. So you need to you need to tell them that you need to have a portal wherein such fake news are busted. We have you guys also should look out this portals like Boom Life, right? Boom Life usually does quite a lot of fact checking, and they have good fact checkers on their team. So that is also another form of reportage, and that also needs another set of editing skills. So in print, usually you don't have space to call out such stuff, but there should be tie-ups within the print and online industry for calling out such stuff, meaning that let's say for example, an online portal has published, does cow urine cure corona, yes or no, question mark. So there's this online portal. Now this online portal can actually talk to a print publisher and say that why don't you let your readers know that I have this story, I'm calling out whether it is true or not. Why don't you let your readers know this? So a QR code for that, for example, can be a way wherein print and an online setup can talk to each other and tell people that hey, this could not be included in the newspaper, but you might, if you're interested, you can go and read on the online version, right? Then you have editing essentials. This slide is pretty much I've kind of covered in what I've spoken so far, except for how do you effectively edit when you're on a strict deadline. This happens almost every day, be it print or be it online or be it video. You have a story, and there is always this this race that I need to be the first. This race to be the first to break a story or to put out an information. So what one effectively needs to do is, while editing, let's say I get 1,000-word piece, and so what I usually do is, if I think whether this is a breaking story or not. Okay. Thereafter, I take a call whether, if it's breaking story, I need to ensure that first thing I knock out what I think at this point of time is not important, or not, or rather what I don't understand. I'm like, I'll figure out the lead, what the story is about, and I'll put out a one-liner in the online space and then send it. At least my readers know that okay, this is something that is happening, right? In online space, there are some ways to do this. For example, if you look at NDTV will send you something like a headline, and say that, call it out saying that this is a developing story. They notify their users on desktop and on their app. Some others choose to put just a headline and then make the readers wait till the full copy comes in, till the entire copy comes in. So you all need to understand that not everything can be met. There will be many times where not everything will be met within a deadline. So it's okay to not have everything in the deadline, but you need to ensure that you get the most parts of the story in the deadline that you're coming up with, that you're given. Next thing is, how useful are editing softwares. There is no shortcut to manual hard work, and there is no shortcut to reading. the more you read, the more you'll come to know about different styles of writing and different styles of editing. So there is no such, of course, softwares and plugins like Grammarly and stuff can help you to an extent, but they cannot, they can be just think of them as add-ons and not foolproof mechanisms, because there's something that hard work. I mean, there's something that there is that. I mean, your Grammarly and all wouldn't substitute your acumen as an editor, your skill as an editor. They will only supplement your skill. It's like if you guys watch this, I've seen this episode from Friends, wherein Joey goes on and Joey writes a letter to some place, and he just happens to use thesaurus and replace common words like big and heart, like words like heart. So essentially the word like heart becomes full-sized aortic pumps, right? So the Monica and Chandler have full-sized aortic pumps, wherein this guy wants to say that Monica and Chandler have big hearts. They are very large-hearted people, right? So Grammarly and all, they can only supplement your skill. They can only help you when you're to an extent help you when you're stuck, but not you cannot take them as a as a standard. The next part of the slide is I'll just quickly take you guys through 2 editing examples. Okay, how things can differ in print versus online. One example is just a minute. Just now, window. Here we are. Can you all see the slide? Ashwini, can you all see the slide?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Super. So print versus online, let's say. Okay, now I'll just read out a couple of lines. You all will be able to see it on your screens through. 2. Necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. Pratik Palanetra, a city-based cricketer, went to US to pursue his entrepreneurship masters in engineering, but ended up designing and developing a cricket ball thrower that has the potential to bridge the gap between, say, a throwdown specialist on the ground and a high-end bowling machine. While studies were a priority for Pratik, a mechanical engineer from engineering graduate from RV College, he couldn't completely give up cricket. In the US, however, there was no easy access to cricket facilities. The nearest one was about 1.5 hour drive from his place, and after a 2.5 hour practice, he would lose almost half a day, which made little sense for someone who was doing his masters. Then the engineering brain in him, hit, and he devised a bowling machine. So essentially, this is a print story which talks about a guy who is pursuing masters in mechanical engineering, who likes cricket, and he developed a machine. Okay, he developed a machine, a cost-effective machine, which is a ball thrower, which will help cricketers at grassroots level, as well as big cricketers, big academies who coach cricketers. Okay, now this is a straightforward, straightjacket look, more or less a print story. Okay, this is how usually a print treatment of the story would be. Whereas in the online, let's say, because if you want to convert this into, let's not call it online, but if you have space in print, or if you have a medium that supports lot of words and space, you can alternatively write or edit this copy like in this way. What did Chuck Nolan? You guys must have seen Castaway. It's a famous Tom Hanks movie. Okay, so Chuck Nolan is a character from that movie. He's stranded on a deserted island after a plane crash. After a plane crash, on that island there is nobody. So he creates a makeshift ball, doll out of a ball with whom he converses, and then he lives off that island till the time he is rescued. Okay, so the story online would go something like, what did Chuck Nolan do after a plane crash left him stranded on a deserted island? Not only did he survive, he thrived off the island, even creating a companion out of a basketball. Similarly, Bengaluru lad Pratik Palanetra is an embodiment of the same character played by Tom Hanks in Castaway in different universes though. Now this, because people online may have some time to read about it, this is not your typical hard news story. So you can assume that people are, people have leisure time to read this. So you've given it a featurist treatment. Okay, the next paragraph said when Pratik moved to United States to pursue his degree, he found no takers for the game he loved the most, which is cricket. Now in United States, you know that cricket is not their first game, right? A batsman by profession, Pratik needed to practice, and a country that loves American football just as it likes baseball compounded his problem. So there was nobody who could understand what is the pain he's going through, and that's why there were only cricket crazy people there was only few cricket crazy players, people in the country. And again, the same thing. He drove for 2.5 hours training sessions, and drove for 3 hours. Same thing, parallel. What did he do? He created. So what did Pratik do? He served internet for inexpensive non-electric portable cricket bowling machine, and when he could not find anything, he decided to fill that void himself, and that's how the first prototype of today's free bowler super thrower is born. You guys see the difference in the treatment of the story? It's the same thing. An Indian guy, a Bangalore chap to be specific, an engineer who's gone to the US, who wants to play cricket, but because of lack of people interested in cricket, he devises his own. He devises a ball throwing machine, a ball thrower, and he calls it free bowler super thrower. It's a mechanical device. It's a mechanical contraption. It's not electrical. And then, so this is what this is what usually how a story can be treated in two different ways, right? So
Chaitanya, I think we have last 5 minutes. If we can take one or two questions from the students and
yes, sure.
Anyone? Do you have any question? Anyone? Arjun, yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. I just have two quick questions to ask. Since you spoke about how newsrooms are changing and how newsrooms are becoming dynamic over time, my first question would be, do you think that a reporter or correspondent should align to the editorial stance of an organization so that the organization can function much more smoother? And the second question would be, do newsrooms want multifaceted reporters, correspondents, and editors to make work more smooth?
See, first question is aligning yourself to your editorial stance of your organization. That will always be there. Meaning, see, if most organizations wouldn't have problem with your personal stance. Let's say, for example, I may not like this celebrity called as Arjun Iyer. Okay, but if Arjun Iyer is a celebrity and he's speaking something good or even something bad, okay, I should treat both of those news specs with the same lens, right? It is not whether my personal liking or not that matters. If Arjun Iyer says that corona, cow dung can cure corona, right? It is my job as a reporter, as an editor as well, sitting on the desk, to know that separate wheat from the chaff. What's right and what is wrong, right? So while I will say that Arjun Iyer said that cow dung can cure corona. Here's what this scientist had to say, right? So I'm looking to put out the facts out there. So my personal stance doesn't have to necessarily align with what my paper says or what this thing. But as a unit, you have to, there are some rules in the sense, there are some guidelines that you always, stick to. But reportage, factual reportage will always be there. No newsroom will say that, no newsroom will say that, oh, this is not aligning with our stance that, we wrote in our editor and opinion piece. This is what a person has said. So go out and report it. Right. The next thing that you asked about is about multifacetedness. right? Don't think about it as a multifacetedness. Think about it is how best you can tell your story. If your story requires 2 paragraphs and a quote, do that much only. If you think that your story will look better with 2 paragraphs and a quote and probably a person's photograph or a picturesque photograph or an infographic, do that. Okay, so how do you do that as a reporter? Let's coronavirus story. Let's say every day at 9 in the morning, people have there are these numbers that are spelled out, right? So you can always supplement your story saying that the health ministry on on Friday released so and so numbers, and then you call out information from the press release that you get in Maharashtra, so many cases, so many recoveries. And so the point as a reporter, you have to enable the editor on the desk to bring out the best possible version of your story. So the more tools you give to your editor, the more information you give to your editor, the better your story will come out. Right? Hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, Ashutosh.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is regarding the policies in the newsroom. Being a final year student, I have heard these stories that newspapers like Deccan Herald and The Hindu, specifically talking in Bangalore's context, I have heard that they do not prefer having the non-regional language speaking person there in the newsroom, and also that they do not offer the jobs and as well as internship for such people who don't know the regional language. So I just wanted to know, is it true? Because I am a final year and I'll be going out now.
Yeah. Right. I think you are misinformed, but see, language is not a bias. A language will never stop you. Your mother tongue, especially, will never stop you from joining a newsroom. Nobody will ever do that. Okay. If I mean, I've worked in newsrooms wherein with let's say I worked in a newsroom in Delhi or Bombay with Bengali speakers in the newsroom. I've worked with newsrooms which have had Kerala Malayalam speakers, Kannada speakers, Marathi speakers. So I don't know Kannada. I've been in the city for 2 years. I don't know Kannada, and I work with Deccan Herald. So there is I don't think so that there is a bias that non-Kannada or non native speakers are not taken into newsrooms, right? As long as again, so for example, if it also depends on the medium that you're using. So for example, in a Kannada newspaper or a Kannada online entity or a Kannada television news channel, Kannada the language will always be a must, right? So especially when you have to type out the native language, you should know that. So that is always required. A Marathi newspaper would always, a Hindi newspaper or a Hindi website will always want people who can, who have the skill sets to put that news out in that language. So that way it is important, but I don't think so these biases are there. So I think you should be rest assured that if you work hard and then language is not a barrier.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, Piyush. I think we can take 2 more questions. That's all.
Sure.
We're already running late. So yeah, Piyush, ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
I have a question. Like, sir, do you think print media also disseminates fake news?
To debunk or disseminate?
Like they spread the false news? Do you think?
Let me just rephrase it and please let me know if I understood it correctly. Are you saying that are you asking whether print media, print newspapers, is it right that some print newspapers peddle misinformation? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that
yes, sir.
see, any entity, online, print, or anywhere, even in spoken, your neighbor, it could be your neighbor, anybody who's spreading information is wrong, right? There is no substitute to that. There is no alternate to that. So there may be some, some people usually don't, if by, and it happens in many organizations that, a part of news is printed, which probably may not be verified. And as and when such things happen, the newspaper usually, puts up corrigendums, corrections, clarifications. They intimate their readers that, oh, we published a wrong news. This is not what had happened. So I remember one of the Economist. Okay, it's a funny yet witty example. So there's a story I read it in the Economist, which talked about liquor consumption trends. Okay, and in the 4th or the 5th para, it said that, liquor consumption in state XYZ, okay, in the US went up like, 10% or 10% in a span of 4 months. This was, let's say, this was an example. Okay, an example. So 2 months down the line, they realized that it was not 10%, it was 12%. So 2 months down the line, in their edition, they called out that information that, that we printed a wrong thing, and the actual figure is 12%. And they were witty. They said probably we were drunk on our job. They had the courage to do that. Why do I mean, it's always encouraged to, call out, tell your readers that you're wrong, because that establishes credibility, that establishes trust, right? And this is why, even after like 1 year of lockdown, wherein, newspapers were not delivered to different places, and, newspapers from the size of the newspapers shrunk from 32 pages to 16 pages to 12 pages, yet people were buying those newspapers. It is because of the credibility that, these papers have had over the, past tons of years. Does that answer your question, Piyush?
Sir, I was asking that recently I saw in Times of India, there were, I think, rumors spread during the COVID pandemic, like home remedies for treatment of COVID. So it was published by some local newspapers. So I was asking about the same, that, like, do you think that, like, we saw many of the rumors spread in online media. So is it
again?
Yes, sir. Print media also.
Right. So see, print media, you won't have space to, call out or debunk myths in print media, in the print space. Okay. So you have to come up with alternatives to, to ensure that, the message goes to different people. So while, nowadays, almost all big places will have a fact-checking news team. Like India Today, I think has, HT has, I think, and there is Alt News, there is Boom, Fact Check. Yeah. So that is where that is where this boils down to.
We are done with its 2:30.
Ashwini, just one thing. Do they have a class right now? I mean, I went on. If they have more questions, I am sure I can take a couple more. If they have a class right now, then we can, end this. Otherwise, I'm happy to take a few more questions.
Simon sir has to give permission.
Oh,
that's okay. You can take, if you're okay with it, you can take questions. No problem.
Sure. Just before I take a question, I think there's a very funny, example that I want to share with you guys. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna read out and showcase a paragraph to you. Maybe one of you guys can, tell me what it's a paragraph, and you can tell me what that paragraph talks about. Okay. So, and this is again in linking with regards to how a story is treated. Okay. So, where were we? Here we are. I'm just sharing it, sharing my screen. No. Yeah. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Ashwini?
Yep.
Super. Right. So this is a paragraph. I mean, this is one of the funniest leads that I've read. Okay, funniest intro paragraphs that I've read. Okay, so where is this? Here we are. Once she took off, she never looked back. Not at her companions fallen by the wayside, not at the motorists who stared at her wedding finery, and certainly not where she was headed. With the sea stretching out ahead of her on the Bandra Valley ceiling, the wind billowing in her hair, Payal's mind was far from the wedding procession where she would be the center of the attraction, and she shrugged off the hand that sought to rein her in. Can anyone guess who is Payal?
A ship.
Pile's a dog.
A
Sorry?
ship.
Pile's a dog.
No.
Ship.
Is she? What? I'm sorry, the last one, I couldn't get that.
Is Pile a horse?
Yes, you guys got it right. So, is she the bride? Who is Payal? First paragraph, when we read it, it turns out like, Payal could be the, bride. But Payal happens to be a horse. And that is clarified in, the next paragraph. Payal, 4 years old, is a ghodi who ran away on April 23 at 3:45 p.m. en route to, where she was supposed to ferry the groom. Right. So everyone had this story. Every organization had this story. The peg was, and this was a story because there is a horse running on, Bandra Valley ceiling. Bandra Valley ceiling is a modern marvel, and you don't get to see horses running on such, at such places. So the peg is horse running on, at on a modern marvel, engineering marvel. So this is how a newspaper actually took this. Now, out there, what I want to say is the story pegs. Let's say when you're going out on the field, you will be chasing the same story peg with multiple, peers. But what you get out of that story peg, how differently you tell the story is up to you. And that is the one that makes a difference. Story peg, like I said, a horse running on Bandra Valley ceiling is the news. A horse meant for the groom catapulted off the wedding and onto Bandra Valley ceiling. If the intro was like this, probably it would have been buried as a single column or a 2-column inside the paper, right? But this, once she took off, she never looked back. This intro makes it worthy of an anchor treatment on page 1, right? So this is how things happen. This is how things change. Are we there? Hello.
Yes, of course.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Super. So yeah. So is my this thing? Am I visible or is it my screen?
You are visible.
Super. Yeah. Yes. That is what I have. And there are like a lot of other calls that you take in, especially in online medium. You take calls real time. On a real-time basis, because you're competing with your online peers, as well as you have to be as quick as your peers in the television channels.
Does anyone else have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you.
Yes, Vinod.
To the the front page, for example, is an important page, right? So is that given out to more experienced editors compared to?
Yes. So obviously, front page of the newspaper is where you want to, you're talking to the people right now. So I mean, it's the face of your newspaper, right? Be it a national newspaper, be it a local newspaper or a hyper local newspaper, right? Your front page is what your front page speaks volumes about the audience that you are reaching out to. So it becomes imperative for, so because that is the nature of the paper, nature of the front page, it will have the most important stories. So, and all, some stories are sensitive, some stories, are fun to read. So in a collaborative newsroom, a copy can be edited by somebody who is like, who has 2 years of experience. Okay, a copy can be re-edited by somebody who has 4 years of experience. A copy can be a headline can be given by a person A to, a strap can be given by a person B. So it always helps for a front page when you have experienced people handling it. Right. So that is essentially that. However, having said that, I've seen people, people editing copies for the front page. People with less experience but good at editing. So, for example, you have some elements on the news on the front page, like an infographic or a picture. So those sort of, that sort of a collaborative publishing usually happens in newsrooms.
And which other page apart from the first page is important? I mean, you may be having statistics on that. Like
all pages are important, and all pages cater to a certain set of audience, right? So, like for example, I mean, let's take an analogy in.
If you say sports,
yes.
People, yeah.
Yeah, so sports is basically, again, sports. I start when I was a kid. I used to turn. I did not look the front page. I would go flip and look at what's happening, last 2-3 pages, and I was happy, right? And if I'm interested in knowing what's happening in my local area, I would rather go to the city page, right? So each page rather has its own importance, has a different set of audience. Okay, what makes the difference is it is more onto the business side of it, wherein advertisers would want their ads to be displayed right up front. So that is why you have jackets, you have half jackets, you have quarter page ads, half page ads, above belly, below belly, sky bus, different types of advertisements. That goes into that. That's as far as the print is concerned. In online as well, you have something called as interstitial, or a pop-up ad. So when you go onto a website, you'll have, instead of getting the homepage first, you'll get an ad. So that will say that the homepage will be redirected to xyz.com after 5 seconds. If you want to go right now, click here. Right. Yeah. So all pages are important, and again, it's like it also depends on reader. If a person wants to read local news, he would go for a local paper rather than a national paper. Right. So a TOI page in Bangalore, a TOI newspaper in Bangalore may look completely different from a TOI in Bombay or in Delhi, for that matter. Big stories will be there. Big stories will make the front page, and that will be the case for all newspapers. Right. But how inside pages are treated, like some will have city first, some will have state first and city later. It also depends on the mix of the people you have in a newsroom. It also depends on the kind of audience you want to reach out to.
Chaitanya, I have a question.
Yes.
How does an advertisement affect news coverage? We know that if it's something really important turns up, then there is no say, the news will be covered. But something that can be taken forward for the next day coverage, would that be affected with an ad? Would you give importance to an ad over that news story?
See, it again, these are calls that are taken on a real-time basis. So each place has, each organization has its own cutoff time for taking in advertisements. Okay, so pretty much all places will have ad slots decided before an editor starts to work on pages. However, having said that, sometimes there are instances when you have a page one ad coming in last instance. So at that point of time, depending on the importance of the story, the ad is taken or dropped. Okay, so there are organizations which are happy to accommodate ads. There will be organizations which will vehemently say, no, it's like 9:30. I don't want to change my page for your ad. You may, if you want, you can book it tomorrow. They will say they can say no to the monies that are coming in. Right. So it all depends on the editorial discretion at that point of time.
I have one question.
Yes, Pratik.
Yeah, Chaitanya. So, just as a follow-up question to what Ashwini asked, yesterday or the day before yesterday, I saw this ad by Nestle. So it was kind of reputation-saving, salvaging a message that put out right on the front page of the Hindu, right? And I also saw a news article about how Nestle is having trouble with all the things that are going around in somewhere on 9th or 10th page. Now, what I wanted to ask is, does a newspaper, like you said, I know that most of these newspapers have their advertisement and editorial both separate, just like church and state, right? But then I want to know that in cases like these where the newspaper knows that something that Nestle has been doing is wrong or against its own values, do they still go ahead with this kind of ad, or do they have a line to draw beyond which they say that no matter how much revenue this ad brings, it's again something we believe in as an institution, so let's not take this?
Again, it depends on case to case basis, but having said that, see, like you said, church and the state, and each unit, but the marketing sales unit is one arm and the editorial is another arm. So editorial usually would always limit itself to say to the reportage bit of it. Okay, it will say that okay, Nestle has admitted XYZ thing in its report. Okay, we have accessed that report, for example, and it may choose to say that it may choose to put up that story on front page or on page number 10 or page number 5 or it could be a single column, it could be a 4 column, it could be a flyer, it could be the anchor. So editorial will always decide that, whereas the advertiser would then, again, it all depends on those calls at that point of time. What is it? Okay, because it is as much as what do you call it, there has to be a balance between your ethics and the monies, because ultimately there's a money element also involved in it, right? So having said that, people have rejected advertisement, newsrooms have rejected advertisements. So those things are again taken, those are management decisions that are taken, and they are basically then conveyed to it. So as an editor or as a desk person, you wouldn't even know what's happening, what is the ad that has come in till the time the page is released. Right.
Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So anyone else? Any more questions? Okay, Chaitanya.
Superb.
Thank you so much. You took out time to address all the questions, and the explanation of all the concepts was so clear. I think we have a better idea of news coverage now and the changing newsroom. Thank you so much.
I'm glad, Ashwini, that you reached out to me, and it's also an experience for me. I'm glad. And I hope that some people would make use of this. And I'll share my email address with you in case anybody wants to reach out with some questions. Again, thank you, Simon sir. Thanks, Vinod, Pratik, and everyone who's had a question. The best thing, a question is a journalist's weapon. No matter how silly, no matter how there's something called as power of asking. At least you'll get an answer, yes or a no. Then you'll know, then you as a person will also be able to form opinions and form judgments, right?
Yeah.
So most stupid questions actually led to big stories. There are many out there. So yeah, again, so my advice to everybody is be honest, be accurate, keep working hard, because there is no substitute to that. Ensure that your story is you are making your story much more accessible and easier for your readers.